The sun sinks lower, and the river is swallowed by a silver fog that seems almost alive. Each ripple catches the dimming light, reflecting a world suspended between day and night. The skiff waits silently, its outline barely visible through the mist. Yet it pulses with an unspoken urgency. The ferryman leans on his oar, calm and still, as if he has been expecting someone, always someone. His eyes, dark and unreadable, scan the shoreline, and those who approach feel an inexplicable pull, a whisper in the air telling them that stepping aboard is inevitable, no matter the cost or consequence. A sudden shiver passes down the spine of a lone traveler edging toward the water. Shadows stretch and twist unnaturally along the riverbank, forming shapes that vanish when looked at directly. Whispers thread through the fog, rising from the water itself, incoherent but compelling. Every step closer feels both thrilling and dangerous, as if the river has a mind of its own and the ferryman merely channels it. The half-price offer seems trivial in comparison to the weight of unseen eyes that study every movement, every hesitation, making it clear that curiosity has already signed a silent contract. The traveler's heartbeat quickens as the oar dips silently into the misty current. A soft creak echoes across the water, a sound that feels alive, deliberate. Something in the river shifts, an unseen current nudging the skiff closer to the shore, closer to the passenger. The fog thickens, obscuring familiar landmarks and replacing them with illusions that might be real or might be traps. The ferryman's voice cuts through low and smooth, not demanding but persuasive, offering promises of passage, safety, or perhaps something else entirely, something unspoken that lingers in the marrow. A sudden ripple disturbs the mirror-like surface, and the traveler glimpses shapes moving beneath, too dark to define, too purposeful to ignore. The mist carries a faint echo of footsteps that never touch land, and the air hums with expectation. Every instinct screams retreat, yet every nerve burns with fascination. The river is no longer a simple crossing. It has become a test of perception and courage, each second stretching into eternity. The ferryman waits patiently, the skiff drifting, and the pull grows stronger, as if the fog itself insists on the journey beginning, whether the traveler consents or not. The first step into the skiff is electric, a point of no return. The wood groans, water laps softly against the hull, and a shiver of recognition passes through the traveler. This is not merely a boat, but a threshold. Mist curls around the edges, hiding the boundaries between safety and danger. The ferryman's eyes meet theirs for a fraction of a heartbeat, hinting at knowledge impossible to comprehend. Behind him, the river stretches endlessly into shadow, reflecting the fear, curiosity, and the unspoken question: who or what rides beneath the fog, waiting to accompany the unwary across the waters that promise both passage and peril? The skiff begins to drift, slow at first, then with the inevitability of night claiming day. Every sound, the whispering mist, the distant croak of unseen frogs, the creak of the oar, is amplified in the hush of dusk. The traveler feels the magnetic pull of the unknown, a story unfolding that has already begun without warning. Something unseen brushes the edges of reality, testing courage and perception. The ferryman remains silent, his calm a stark contrast to the trembling anticipation of the river, and the fog swallows the shore behind them. The journey has begun, but the true cost, the hidden bargain, remains impossible to discern, teasing the mind with questions that will not wait for answers. Whispers ripple through the village, carried from door to door about travelers who board the skiff and never reach the opposite shore. Some boats return empty, gently rocking in the current, while belongings lie untouched, as if the occupants simply vanished into the mist. Windows frame uncertain shadows, and the river seems to murmur secrets too subtle to catch fully. Those who witness the skiff's silent glide feel a cold awareness, a sensation that the ferryman sees not only the river, but the fear and curiosity in each soul that approaches, bending reality with his quiet presence. Villagers speak of shapes glimpsed through the fog, fleeting silhouettes that vanish when looked at directly. Footsteps along the riverbank echo softly, yet do not match any known path. The mist curls and coils around them, thickening when someone ventures too close, almost warning of the invisible currents beneath. The ferryman drifts along the water, unhurried, as if time itself has slowed to match his pace. Even the most skeptical begin to sense an unnameable force, a careful orchestration guiding the living toward the river and the unknown depths of its foggy embrace. A mother clutches her child as she watches from a distance, noticing the skiff approaching the opposite bank with no visible occupant. The river seems to swallow sound, leaving only the faint slap of water against the hull. Air grows heavy, and the mist presses against the shore, as if nudging or deterring the curious. Each vanished traveler is discussed with a mix of fear and fascination, their absence becoming a symbol of the river's silent authority. The ferryman's presence is both invisible and undeniable, a constant that seems to warp perception and demand attention without uttering a single word. At dusk, the fog thickens so that trees vanish into shadow and the shorelines blur. Those daring enough to approach feel an unsettling weight, like 1,000 invisible eyes following their every step. Boats glide silently, unmoored, carrying nothing yet, leaving a trace of dread in their wake. Even the wind carries a cold note, an echo of voices from unseen places. The ferryman appears and disappears like a trick of light, a ghostly pilot navigating more than water, navigating fear, curiosity, and the fragile boundary between reality and the unknown. Travelers who attempt the crossing recall a silence so profound it feels almost tactile. Every sound, water lapping, reeds swaying, is amplified by the awareness that something unseen watches, guides, or judges. The skiff seems to drift with a purpose beyond human comprehension, carrying not just passengers, but the weight of observation itself. Each return of the boat, whether empty or bearing impossible traces, reinforces a pattern no one can decipher fully, and the villagers grow restless, their minds preoccupied with the river's quiet, controlling presence and the half-price bargain that may come at an unknowable cost. The ferryman's reputation grows as reports spread. The river does not forgive, it merely delivers. Travelers vanish in ways that defy explanation, leaving only fleeting hints of their presence behind. The mist seems alive, curling around the edges of reality, shaping perception. Steps are heard on the banks with no discernible source, and shadows move with a consciousness that seems almost separate from the ferryman himself. Each tale shared carries the echo of fear and fascination, binding those who listen into the same unspoken acknowledgement. The river is no ordinary crossing, and its guide no ordinary man. Nightfall intensifies the mystery. Lamps flicker in distant houses, casting elongated shadows that dance like distorted memories of the missing. Some claim to hear laughter or cries carried across the fog, yet the origin remains forever obscured. Even the bravest feel the pull of the river and the magnetic certainty of the skiff, as if the mist itself knows who is about to step aboard. The ferryman's calm, deliberate movements contrast sharply with the chaos of the unknown, his presence anchoring the fear and fascination that grip anyone near the water's edge. By the time dawn approaches, the fog begins to retreat, but its imprint lingers in minds and memories. Boats lie empty or drifting, but the river has left its mark. Questions that cannot be answered, glimpses of impossible phenomena, and the unshakable sense that those who vanish have crossed into something beyond comprehension. Villagers feel an invisible weight pressing at their thoughts, a silent warning that the ferryman and his skiff are patient, and that curiosity, once aroused, may demand payment long before the first light of day. The boat floats back silently, bobbing against the worn wooden pier as if guided by unseen hands. The water shimmers strangely, disturbed not by wind or current, but by some subtle, inexplicable force. Villagers gather, drawn by a mix of fear and fascination, their murmurs swallowed by the heavy night air. The ferryman waits nearby, motionless, his dark eyes catching theirs for a fleeting moment. A chill passes through the crowd, unspoken yet tangible, as if the river itself is aware of their presence and judging their curiosity with a quiet, omnipresent weight. Nearby, ripples cascade outward, spreading unease across the surface. Personal items lie scattered on the skiff. Hat, scarf, a book, untouched yet oddly arranged. The sight is unsettling. It implies an order behind the disappearance, a precision that makes the unknown feel deliberate. The villagers feel their pulse quicken, sensing the invisible mechanics of the ferryman's world. Questions claw at their minds. Where did the passenger go? Was the crossing complete, or did the river claim something more than a simple traveler? The fog swirls around the skiff, thickening as if protecting its secret. Shadows of the trees stretch across the water in unnatural angles, making the boat seem smaller, yet somehow larger, as if it occupies a space beyond measurement. Every creak of the pier echoes, magnified by the stillness of the night. The ferryman moves subtly, almost imperceptibly, his presence bending the scene into a tension-filled frame. Villagers sense he holds knowledge beyond comprehension, that the river itself is a stage for forces they cannot hope to understand, and yet they cannot look away. A faint splash echoes from the river's center, though no one sees the source. The skiff rocks once more slightly, and a cold draft whispers through the crowd. Breath catches in chests as the impossible seems possible. The river has returned its passengerless boat, but with a trace of the crossing lingering like an afterimage. A child steps back instinctively, clutching a parent's hand, and the villagers collectively realize that fear is no longer just an abstract idea. It is anchored in reality, palpable and immediate, brushing against their senses like unseen fingertips. Some villagers lean closer, peering at the items left behind, trying to extract meaning. Every object seems deliberate, yet the pattern eludes them. A leather-bound journal has pages slightly damp, its cover warped, hinting at stories untold. Shoes are positioned at exact angles, scarves draped over the edge with careful intent. These small details ignite a curiosity laced with dread. Something beyond comprehension is at work, and it has left behind a signature, a reminder that the ferryman's journey is not random, and that the river has rules it enforces silently, invisibly. The ferryman finally speaks, low and deliberate, words barely audible yet slicing through the night. A soft invitation, a warning disguised as calm. Villagers lean in instinctively, compelled by the cadence of his voice, though they understand nothing. The boat sways gently as if acknowledging the sound, while the river responds with ripples that defy natural flow. The air grows thick, charged with anticipation, as if every eye, every breath, every heartbeat is being measured. The village, the pier, the mist, they are all participants in a quiet ritual whose rules none dare question. A sudden movement in the mist catches attention. A shadow flickers at the water's edge, too fast to follow, too deliberate to ignore. Gasps ripple through the villagers as the ferryman glances briefly toward it, expression unreadable. The skiff crests the small waves and settles back, rocking as though alive. No one dares step closer, and yet none can turn away. The river's surface reflects the pale moonlight, but the reflection is distorted, fractured, hinting at a reality slightly askew. Everyone senses that the missing passenger has left a mark, something impossible, permanent, a ripple in the normal order that will never be undone. As the crowd disperses reluctantly, unease lingers. The skiff drifts back slowly, anchored by an invisible force. The ferryman's gaze sweeps across the riverbank once more, and an instinctual shiver passes through those who remain. The fog begins to thin, revealing familiar shapes, yet the feeling of the impossible persists. Questions remain unanswered, curiosity remains inflamed, and the invisible presence of the river and its enigmatic guide lingers like a shadow just out of reach. The night holds its breath, and the sense of unseen eyes watching ensures that the ferryman's half-price bargain remains both an invitation and a warning. Rumors travel quickly along the village streets, carried on hesitant whispers and nervous glances toward the river. Those who cross the waters at dusk seem to vanish in similar patterns, leaving only fragments of memory and belongings behind. Scraps of journals, hastily written letters, and scattered notes hint at a guiding hand, an invisible force that orchestrates every journey. The ferryman remains at the center of the speculation, his calm demeanor masking intentions no one can read. Those who claim to have heard his voice speak insist he addresses not the living, but something else entirely, something unseen drifting with the current. Observers note a strange stillness that descends on the river when a crossing begins. Trees bend gently without wind, mist curls unnaturally, and the water reflects light in ways that seem impossible. Even the air feels charged, heavy with expectation, as if the river itself conspires with the ferryman. Travelers report subtle nudges, a current shifting unexpectedly, or a whisper carried on the wind that guide them along the skiff's path. Each step feels choreographed, predetermined, and impossible to resist, and the faint thrill of danger blends seamlessly with a magnetic draw toward the unknown. Fragments of journals collected by curious villagers reveal uncanny patterns. One page describes a passenger who felt compelled to sit in a specific spot on the skiff, though they don't remember moving there. Another recounts a sensation of voices whispering directions, never audible but undeniably present. Maps are annotated with symbols marking points along the river where the current behaves oddly, suggesting that the ferryman does not merely transport, he directs, shapes, and observes. Each discovery fuels a fascination mingled with terror, binding observers to a mystery they cannot yet solve. Investigators who venture near the river notice that reflections in the water do not always match the sky. Shadows move independently of objects casting them, and ripples form patterns too precise for wind alone. Birds avoid the area, and insects behave strangely, as if sensing some hidden presence. Those who step closer feel subtle pressures, a tug at the mind, or an almost imperceptible guidance toward the skiff. It becomes clear that the river is not passive. It participates, cooperates, and enforces a rhythm that only the ferryman seems to understand, drawing observers into the same enigmatic dance. Some villagers swear the ferryman whispers directly to the mist. The sounds are indistinct, a low murmur, yet undeniably deliberate. People nearby report a shiver running down the spine, a sensation of unseen eyes following each movement. Even those who do not cross the river feel the invisible hand at work, pulling thoughts, shaping curiosity, and intensifying the desire to witness what cannot be seen clearly. The river transforms from a simple body of water into a living corridor, a conduit between the known and the unknowable, where perception itself bends under forces impossible to name. Footsteps along the riverbank echo in ways that seem to defy physics. Investigators find impressions in the mud that vanish without trace, objects displaced slightly, as if a breeze carried them but no wind exists. Each anomaly, subtle yet insistent, points toward the ferryman's hidden orchestration. The currents themselves shift unpredictably, suggesting awareness and intent. Witnesses report that the river behaves differently when someone is actively watching, as if conscious of being observed, and this revelation amplifies the fear. The skiff, the ferryman, and the current are all part of an intricate, untraceable design. As night falls, the mist thickens, cloaking the river in near-total white. Observers lose their bearings, familiar landmarks blur, and the path of the skiff seems to shift before their eyes. Sounds are amplified unnaturally, from creaking oars to distant water splashes that have no source. The ferryman remains calm, almost untouchable, drifting along the invisible threads that guide each journey. Witnesses feel themselves drawn in, curiosity and fear entwined, unable to resist moving closer, despite knowing that crossing the water may lead to a disappearance they might never understand or reverse. By dawn, the fog thins, but leaves unease lingering like a shadow on the village. Journal scraps, misplaced objects, and distorted reflections remain as reminders of the river's hidden life. The ferryman's presence persists, even in absence, a quiet influence over thoughts and behavior. Each clue, each anomaly, deepens the enigma and calls others to the edge, to the mist-laden banks where curiosity and dread intertwine. The river has become more than water. It is a portal, a test, and a trap. Its secrets controlled by a silent guide who commands both mist and perception with incomprehensible mastery. Figures flicker in the dense fog along the riverbank, shapes that shift and vanish the moment they seem recognizable. Travelers speak in hurried whispers of feeling watched, a prickling awareness crawling over their skin as if unseen eyes follow every step. The ferryman remains a still presence amid the chaos, his skiff an unnatural extension of the river itself. The water moves almost sentiently, responding to his commands, carrying the weight of something both real and unknowable. Each step forward feels guided, restrained, as if the mist itself directs the living along a path chosen without consent. Soft creaks echo from the skiff as it rocks gently against the current, while muffled splashes break the surface far from any visible source. Whispers rise from the fog, incoherent yet insistent, as if the river speaks in a language only partially understood. Travelers hesitate, hearts hammering, caught between fear and a compulsive pull toward the skiff. Even those who consider themselves brave sense the stakes are no longer physical alone. Crossing the river is a surrender, a subtle acknowledgement that something else, something that observes, guides, and judges, has already taken control. The fog thickens with each step closer to the water, wrapping the banks in an almost tangible blanket of uncertainty. Shapes appear at the periphery of vision. Branches bending without wind, silhouettes gliding across the mist, and fleeting reflections in the water that don't match reality. The ferryman remains motionless, yet his influence is undeniable. He watches, waits, and orchestrates silently, a presence that bends time and space. Every sound, from creaking planks to the faint lapping of water, seems amplified, carrying layers of meaning that provoke instinctive fear and fascination simultaneously. Some travelers describe a sensation of being led, of their bodies following paths they did not consciously choose. The skiff drifts smoothly, unmoored yet purposeful, as if guided by invisible currents not entirely of water. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the river's surface, and shapes shift behind the fog in ways that defy logic. Each step along the bank feels measured, significant, a small but critical part of the ferryman's unseen choreography. Even the bravest pause, sensing the crossing, may mark more than a physical journey. It could mark something deeper, a passage into the unknowable. A sudden splash echoes from mid-river, startling travelers who had assumed they were alone. No figure emerges, yet the water ripples with intent, suggesting life or awareness below the surface. The ferryman's eyes briefly meet a traveler's, calm and unreadable, yet conveying more than words could express. A shiver runs through the group as instinct and curiosity collide. The mist wraps around them, obscuring familiar landmarks and replacing them with illusions that seem both real and threatening. The river has become a test, and the stakes are invisible, unpredictable, and inescapable. The whispers grow louder, closer, threading through the traveler's thoughts like a subtle pressure. Odd sounds, boards creaking, distant laughter, soft splashes rise and fade without clear origin. Each anomaly seems to carry intent, as if the environment itself conspires to manipulate perception. The ferryman remains still, his skiff drifting with purpose, and the travelers realize the river and its guide may act together, a symbiotic force that measures patience, fear, and resolve. Every instinct warns them to retreat, yet the pull of curiosity and the promise of understanding continues to draw them forward. Time feels distorted along the fog-laden banks. Moments stretch, yet events unfold in jagged, unpredictable bursts. Shadows of trees and rocks appear in impossible positions. Reflections twist unnaturally on the water's surface, and the skiff drifts in ways that defy explanation. Travelers report sensing presences moving just outside their vision, unseen but undeniably near. Even those who attempt to watch closely feel their attention manipulated, their focus shifted subtly, as if the river itself ensures that nothing is observed fully. The ferryman's silent command shapes the environment, bending reality while maintaining a chilling calm. As the night deepens, anticipation thickens to a palpable tension. Each sound, each movement, each fleeting shadow feels weighted with significance. The river has transformed from a simple crossing into a domain of subtle control, and the ferryman is the invisible hand orchestrating every motion. Travelers hesitate at the water's edge, caught between terror and fascination, compelled by forces they cannot name. Crossing is no longer a choice. It is an inevitability, a surrender to the shadows along the bank and the currents that guide them, promising passage yet hinting at consequences that remain unknown. The group crouches low among the reeds, fog curling around them like fingers of the unseen. From their hidden vantage, the skiff drifts silently, its movement uncannily smooth. As if propelled by a force beyond water and wind, shadows detach from trees and rocks, sliding across the mist without touching the surface. Reflections twist in impossible ways, and the faint glint of light along the river seems to curve against natural physics. Fear gnaws at their resolve, but curiosity pushes them forward. The ferryman glides effortlessly, a calm axis in the chaos, commanding forces they cannot name or control. Suddenly, the skiff pauses mid-river, floating as if suspended by invisible threads. The air vibrates faintly, a hum that resonates in the chest and the bones. Lights along the water stretch unnaturally, forming shapes that suggest forms they almost recognize. Whispers rise, soft and urgent, carrying tones the group can't decode. Every instinct screams danger, yet the pull to observe, to witness the impossible, overrides hesitation. The river is no longer a path, but a stage, and the ferryman seems to choreograph its every motion with meticulous intent. One member of the group catches a shadow detaching completely from a tree, sliding toward the skiff without contact with the fog or water. The mind struggles to reconcile the phenomenon with reality. Ripples form under nothing, then vanish instantly, leaving only distorted reflections in their wake. The ferryman remains calm, steering a course that bends perception, guiding the journey into spaces where ordinary understanding fails. The observers realize they are witnessing more than travel. They are seeing a boundary blur between the tangible and the impossible, a vanishing point where reality yields to something older, deeper, and darker. The river seems to respond to the ferryman's will, currents swirling in patterns that defy natural flow. Shapes of fog move ahead of the skiff as if clearing a path, and shadows trail behind like obedient followers. The group notices subtle changes in themselves. Time feels disjointed, heartbeats echo oddly, and each breath is heavier than before. Even their senses struggle to keep pace with what unfolds. The ferryman's presence is silent but absolute, a fulcrum around which the river, the mist, and the shadows bend. Watching becomes addictive, terrifying, and impossible to resist. A sudden flicker of movement catches one observer's eye. A faint silhouette rises from the river briefly, then disappears into the mist. The group gasps, instinctively retreating slightly, yet cannot tear their gaze away. The skiff drifts closer, almost aware of their attention, yet the ferryman does not acknowledge them. His calm contrasts sharply with the anomalies surrounding him, reinforcing the sense that he operates on a plane beyond comprehension. Every ripple, every shadow, every impossible reflection suggests design, intelligence, and intent that the group can feel but cannot name. The fog thickens, swallowing the skiff from view and leaving only faint outlines and reflections that distort reality. The observers sense that crossing the river may not only transport someone physically, but also reshape perception, bending mind and senses to a pattern only the ferryman understands. Whispers grow louder, almost intelligible, yet vanish whenever one tries to grasp their meaning. Fear escalates into awe as the river becomes simultaneously a sanctuary and a trap, its calm surface hiding currents of transformation that could alter anything foolish enough to traverse its waters. Time becomes fractured along the misty banks. Shadows lengthen and shrink unpredictably, reflections break and reassemble with subtle anomalies, and the skiff seems to exist in multiple positions at once. Observers feel their own thoughts shifting, a tug toward curiosity stronger than self-preservation. Every element, the fog, the water, the oarsless skiff, communicates silently that the ferryman is not merely guiding the journey, but controlling it, shaping the river, the environment, and even the perception of those who dare to follow. Reality itself seems negotiable in his presence. By dawn, the skiff glides from view, leaving the group shaken, their minds teetering on the edge of comprehension. Clues remain in the rippling water, in the distorted reflections, in the silence that follows, suggesting that what they witnessed was only a fragment of a deeper truth. The ferryman vanishes as effortlessly as he appeared, leaving observers to wonder what is natural and what is manipulated, what is real and what has been subtly altered. The vanishing point is not just a location, it is a convergence of perception, fear, and the unknowable, a boundary that the ferryman alone traverses with quiet mastery. Voices drift across the river, carried on currents of fog and wind. Faint laughter, whispered warnings, a single cry that vanishes before recognition. Observers shiver, unsure if the sounds belong to the living or echoes of the vanished. Those who have returned speak of memories fractured and inconsistent, recalling companions who appear in impossible places along the shore or vanish entirely in the same instant. The river seems alive, absorbing presence and time, leaving only fragments for the mind to grasp. Each auditory ripple tightens the sense of unease, binding curiosity and fear in equal measure. Shadows move independently of objects, stretching and curling in ways that defy logic. Trees lean unnaturally over the water, reflecting distorted images in the river's surface. Observers notice the skiff gliding silently without oars, in perfect alignment with the shifting fog. The ferryman's body is still, yet every subtle gesture, tilt of the head, flick of an eye, seems synchronized with the river's rhythm. The air vibrates with a quiet tension, an invisible force pressing on senses and perception. Those who watch feel the uncanny awareness of being monitored, as if the river has claimed their attention and will not release it lightly. Faint ripples disturb the water where no touch occurs, moving with deliberate intent. Observers realize the ferryman guides more than the boat. He orchestrates perception, bending the scene with careful precision. Lights along the banks flicker without source, and reflections fracture into impossible angles. Travelers describe feeling as though their thoughts are being nudged, gently coerced to follow patterns they cannot name. Fear mixes with fascination, producing a pull toward the river stronger than any instinct for self-preservation. The ferryman's silence amplifies the dread, each pause suggesting knowledge and power beyond comprehension. Some who linger report glimpses of figures standing along the shore, appearing and disappearing without movement. Faces seem familiar yet impossible, like half-remembered dreams, or companions displaced in time and space. Even the most skeptical feel their perception bending. The river exerts influence beyond the visible, shaping memory, thought, and expectation. Whispers thread through the fog, coherent only in fragments, hinting at instructions or warnings never fully understood. Every attempt to rationalize the scene fails, reinforcing the realization that this crossing is governed by rules entirely unknown to the human mind. The ferryman adjusts the skiff's position subtly, a shift imperceptible, yet with consequences in the ripples and fog patterns. Observers sense the boat responds to unseen currents, bending reality along with the water. Time feels unstable, moments stretch and compress unpredictably. Those who watch experience vertigo of perception, as if the river and its guide can manipulate not only space, but consciousness itself. Even the act of observing feels dangerous, an unspoken contract binding their awareness to the river's flow and the ferryman's deliberate design, a test of attention, courage, and endurance. A sudden flare of movement catches the eye, a reflection that does not match the sky, a shadow that detaches briefly from the shore. Hearts race, instinct warns retreat, yet curiosity roots the observers in place. The river hums with tension, a silent chorus of what has passed and what is imminent. Some claim to see faint outlines of missing travelers within the fog, distorted and shifting like smoke. Each glimpse evokes dread and wonder, leaving the mind unsteady, questioning what is real and what the river has claimed as part of its own rhythm. The ferryman drifts closer to the center of the river, and observers notice a subtle intensification of sounds, whispers harmonizing with splashes, faint laughter interwoven with cries. Perception fractures further. Even those who stood firm feel their balance and sense of direction bend. The skiff moves with a grace impossible for a human alone, yet the ferryman makes no visible effort. Every element, the fog, the water, the shadows, the echoes, seems to converge under his silent command, creating a liminal space where curiosity, fear, and incomprehension collide. The river is no longer a passage, but a threshold, and those who witness it understand instinctively that it demands respect and attention. As night deepens, the echoes continue without origin or end. The ferryman remains, a motionless pivot around which the river, fog, and shadows flow. Observers feel suspended, trapped in the tension between revelation and ignorance, unable to fully comprehend the fate of the missing. The liminal space exerts control over thought, urging both retreat and vigilance. The river seems to absorb not only travelers, but also the awareness of those who watch, leaving them to navigate fear and fascination together. In this suspended moment, the crossing has become more than movement. It is a test, a puzzle, and a warning, silently unfolding in the night. Fragments of journals, sketches, and hastily scribbled notes begin to surface along the riverbank, left by those who dared to observe too closely. Each page hints at a ritualistic pattern, a method hidden within the ferryman's calm demeanor. Yet no two accounts align completely. Observers strain to connect details, but the clues resist cohesion, leaving the mind uneasy and questioning. The skiff glides silently on the misty water, its movements precise and intentional, unaffected by human attempts to intervene or understand. The river has become a realm where logic falters, and the ferryman's purpose remains tantalizingly out of reach. Travelers attempting to follow or approach the skiff find themselves subtly redirected. Paths seem to curve unnaturally, and footsteps falter on soft, unseen forces, The riverbank shifts in perception. Familiar trees appear misplaced, shadows stretch where they should not, and reflections twist with deceptive intent. Those who try to intervene are led astray, arriving too late or to empty banks. Even the most daring feel the pull of the ferryman's control, realizing that human determination cannot override the invisible design that governs the crossing and the half-price bargain. Sketches left behind depict lines and symbols alongside fragmented annotations. Order matters. Do not resist the drift. The water chooses. Each note suggests meticulous orchestration, but the meaning remains cryptic. Observers feel the weight of intention behind every ripple, shadow, and sound. The skiff returns repeatedly, empty or with abandoned belongings, each arrival amplifying tension. The half-price offer becomes more than an incentive. It is a signifier of rules unseen, a subtle warning that crossing the river is both invitation and test, with consequences beyond the comprehension of those drawn to it. Recollections from witnesses blur under the strain of observation. Some remember companions disappearing mid-crossing, while others claim to see the same person in multiple locations simultaneously along the foggy bank. Voices echo faintly, instructions or warnings that vanish if one tries to understand. The ferryman's movements remain calm, methodical, and deliberate, as though choreographed in concert with the river itself. The skiff is both instrument and message, a vehicle that carries bodies, perceptions, and questions, leaving behind uncertainty, dread, and fascination in equal measure. Attempts to intervene escalate unease. Villagers report objects displaced in impossible ways, footprints that vanish mid-step, and reflections that contradict physical reality. Even the landscape itself feels complicit, bending subtly to mislead the observer. Those who approach the river at dusk feel a tug, an invisible guidance steering them away from understanding. The ferryman seems to anticipate every move, each hesitation, every attempt to decipher his methods. The crossing becomes not merely a journey, but an intricate game of perception, memory, and restraint, where control is never fully grasped. Each return of the skiff leaves tangible traces, ripples that persist unnaturally, belongings arranged with deliberate care, and subtle changes in fog density. Observers are left with half-seen patterns and a growing sense of inevitability. The ritual is both meticulous and elusive, its purpose encoded in forces that cannot be fully comprehended. Anxiety mounts as it becomes clear that the half-price bargain is not a gesture of mercy, but an enticement into a system that governs time, perception, and presence. Crossing the river is no longer voluntary. It is a passage defined by the ferryman's inscrutable rules. The river itself seems to hum with unspoken intent. Currents swirl in shapes and patterns unseen during daylight. Shadows stretch across the water unnaturally, and light refracts oddly through the mist. Observers feel as though they intrude upon something sacred yet dangerous, a space where the natural laws bend. The ferryman remains calm, silent, and omnipresent, his influence extending beyond the skiff into the very perception of those who watch. Every ripple, every shadow, every distortion seems deliberate, a warning engraved invisibly in water and fog that the bargain is neither simple nor forgiving. By the end of night, the skiff drifts back to the pier once more, leaving traces and questions but no resolution. Witnesses are left shaken, haunted by glimpses of the impossible and fragments of a logic they cannot comprehend. The half-price offer lingers in memory as a symbol, an invitation fraught with peril, a contract whose terms remain partially unreadable. The ferryman vanishes as quietly as he appeared, leaving the river calm but charged with latent threat. Those who observed feel forever altered, knowing that the crossing carries consequences beyond the immediate, and that the bargain with Dusk is one that extends far into the unknown. The ferryman slips silently into the fog one last time, leaving the skiff adrift, rocking as if breathing with unseen life. Its empty hull reflects the dim glow of the river, yet it exudes a weight that presses on those who watch. Some passengers return, altered in subtle and unsettling ways, memories fragmented, gestures unfamiliar, eyes holding echoes of the river's influence. Others vanish entirely, leaving only whispers of their existence carried by the wind. The ferryman's absence is felt more profoundly than his presence, a reminder that the river continues to claim attention and curiosity alike, bending perception and reality with silent mastery. Observers along the banks feel an oppressive stillness, a pause in time where shadows stretch unnaturally and the mist curls with intent. Ripples rise from the skiff without motion, echoing as if the water itself remembers what has passed. Those who approach cannot shake the sense that the river is aware of their thoughts, subtly shaping their movements, guiding them without touch. Faint, indistinct whispers snake through the fog, teasing recognition and leaving fragments of warnings that dissolve before understanding. The bargain, the half-price invitation, hangs heavy in memory, a symbol of unseen contracts and unfulfilled consequences that stretch far beyond what any mortal can measure. Some who escape the river report haunting sensations, memories of the ferryman and skiff intruding unbidden into dreams. Sounds of creaking boards, muffled splashes, and whispered corrections echo in their minds, relentless and precise. Time itself seems warped. Moments recalled from the crossing do not match reality, and faces appear doubled or missing from recollection. The river is not merely a body of water, but a living corridor, capable of shaping thought, bending perception, and marking those who trespass along its banks. The ferryman, though vanished, asserts control still, an unseen hand threading through mist, shadow, and memory, a presence beyond explanation. Those who remain near the river sense subtle anomalies in the environment. Leaves ripple without wind, reflections distort unnaturally, and shadows move counter to light. Even in daylight, the river seems alive, carrying traces of the vanished and the altered. Travelers who once followed the skiff report an invisible pull whenever they approach, a magnetic tension that binds them closer than reason permits. The bargain is unbroken, unyielding, an echo in every ripple and breath of wind. Curiosity is no longer safe. The river enforces its rules with patience and precision, claiming more than attention and sometimes more than the person who dares to seek the unknown. Occasionally, remnants of the journey surface, a shoe floating downstream, a journal page etched with indecipherable symbols, a faint reflection that does not belong. These fragments act as warnings, reminders that the river and ferryman leave traces of power and presence that linger beyond the crossing. Fear, awe, and fascination blend into an uneasy vigilance. The town learns that even absence does not diminish the ferryman's reach. Every step near the water, every glance into the mist carries weight, as if the river remembers, waits, and silently judges the intentions of all who dare to trespass on its domain. By nightfall, the skiff remains still, seemingly empty, but alive with tension. The ferryman's final disappearance does not end his influence. The river itself continues to hum with hidden energy, a conduit for forces beyond comprehension. Shadows stretch along the banks, currents twist without cause, and whispers linger, teasing memory and perception. The bargain is endless, its consequences unmeasured, and the river ensures that curiosity is never innocuous. Those who walk away carry the subtle mark of the crossing, a persistent awareness that some doors once glimpsed remain open, and the drift of the ferryman's skiff may return at any dusk, demanding attention, obedience, or surrender.